Hi everybody, this is Frillioth and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to build the new Quadpod villager breeder. I've currently got a monopod villager breeder with one breeding pair of villagers that produces a baby every 8 to 10 minutes. And I've also got an industrial villager breeder with 12 breeding pairs of villagers that produce a baby about every minute, between 50 seconds and a minute. But I don't have one that produces somewhere in between, so I've come up with this one. Now the breeder itself is very tiny for what it is. It's only got a footprint of 7 by 7 and you only need to go up 12 blocks. And as I say, you've got 4 breeding pairs of villagers surrounding the centre villager. He's the key to the entire village. That guy is the on-off switch, which I showcased not that long ago actually. I'll put a link to it in the description. But that causes the village to either be valid or not valid. And I'll explain that a little bit later on. So currently the village is turned off, and I'm also using a mod that's called the BB Bounding Reloaded mod, I believe it's called. I don't know where I got that from, but I'm sure if you Google BB Bounding Reloaded mod, you'll be able to find it. And basically what that tells me is whether or not this village is valid. So I've currently fed all of the villagers. I've given them about 5 or 6 stacks of carrots each. And as you can see at the moment, they're not in the mood. But if I turn the villager breeder on, the sticky piston under there forces that block upwards, which puts that villager inside the range of those doors, which validates the village. And as you can see, it's now a valid village. That's the golem spawning area. If all criteria was met, that would be the area where the iron golems spawn. But obviously, it's not going to be. We're not going to get any iron golems because we don't have enough doors or villages. But now the village is valid, and these guys are starting to get in the mood. Now the reason for the on-off switch is if you automatically feed these guys, and I know it'll be easy enough to set up. I'm not going to do that here, but it's easy enough to set up automatically feeding the guys with water chutes or dispensers or droppers. If you have this in a spawn chunk and you automatically feed these guys without an on-off switch, you're going to have babies coming out of your ears. I mean, this thing, it produces babies, I don't know, one baby every 2 or 3 minutes or so, as long as they're fed. So as I say, if you're in a spawn chunk and you are continually feeding them, this chunk will stay loaded and the babies will just keep coming, which is the reason why I put in the on-off switch. Now if I flick the switch off, it's not like a light switch, it won't turn off automatically. It does take 60 seconds. And I've timed this, it took 59.63 seconds or something. So I'll flick the switch and we'll give it a second. I'll just fast forward. So that took a minute, which is fantastic. The old switch, the switch I have on the monopod breeder and the industrial breeder, uses the villager on top of the doors and retracts that block to invalidate the village. But I found that that doesn't normally work within 60 seconds. You have to unload the chunk for that to work, which is why I designed this new switch, which always works within 60 seconds. It's never yet failed. So there you go. I'll put a list of everything you need to build this on screen now. So pause the video if you need to. And now we'll get on and build it. Okay, so we've got our 7 by 7 area laid out on the floor here. And I've also got the area where I'm going to be putting the unloading station. I've marked that in green. So first of all, you want to start by putting a wall of solid blocks all the way around the bottom of the breeder. So you want to put 7 by 7 by 7 blocks. And you want to leave this corner out actually. This is a corner where all your babies are going to come out of. So you need to pop that block out, replace it with a solid block, pop those two out and put a torch on there, a redstone torch, and then put a solid block over the top of it. That's going to power that block there, because you're going to need it for your rails. And then you want to come over two, so you've got 1, 2, and then you want to build a pyramid. So you want to put 5 blocks down, 5, and then you want to do 3 above it, and then you want to do 1 on the top. So you've got that kind of shape. Okay? And then you want to pop out that block, pop out that block, and put a redstone torch there and there. Now grab yourself your rails. You need some powered rails to start with. Put a powered rail there. It should become powered because of the redstone torch we have there. Then you want to put a normal rail there, a normal rail there, powered rail, which is then powered because of that torch, and then a detector rail on the top. And then down the other side, you just want to put some powered rails. And that goes off to wherever you want your babies to go to, your trading hall or your iron farm or wherever. Now you want to come around the back side of it, this side of it, and you need to put a solid block there. Okay, so it needs to be just behind the back of that powered rail. And then on that block, you need to put a dispenser. Now, this has to be a dispenser. You can't be putting a dropper there. It has to be a dispenser or this won't work. And then on the block directly underneath the detector rail on the back, next to the dispenser, you want to put a redstone torch. Now, because of how minecarts work, that won't reach that powered rail until there's something in it. So as soon as a baby gets in there, it'll reach that powered rail and then off it'll go into the distance. So now you can fill up your dispenser with minecarts. If you need more, if you think you're going to need more minecarts in there, just grab yourself a hopper and grab yourself a couple of chests. Stick a hopper on the back, and then you can put some chests on the back of it. And you can put as much storage on the back here as you want. As I say, it just depends on how many babies you think you're going to be needing. And obviously you can recycle the minecarts anyway, so you're probably not going to need loads, depending on, as I say, what you want to do with them. So now we've got the unloading station sorted out, we'll start to build the main part of the breeder. Okay, so get inside the breeding area, the breeder area, and you need to put a couple of temporary blocks down. You need to put 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, and 2 there. And on top of these blocks, you need to put your glass blocks. Now, these glass blocks are the blocks that the water is going to go on, that your villagers, your breeding pairs are going to stand on. I'm using green because it's easy to see. I wouldn't normally use green, but in the past I've used a glass that you've not been able to see. So today I'm going to use green. So you stick those blocks down like that, and then you can knock out all of the temporary blocks underneath it. Okay, now on top of these blocks, temporarily, you need to put a solid block. Now, coming off the side of those blocks, you need to put some glass panes. So you need to put your panes all the way around these solid blocks that you've just put on top of your glass blocks. So you've got something that looks like that. And then you can go ahead and pop out these temporary blocks. So now you've got something that looks like that. Okay, now you can go ahead and put your water on top of the glass blocks, and the glass panes are going to keep it from going anywhere. Now you need to build the wall up around the outside of the breeder. So you need to build a wall that is 3 high. You can make it out of glass, you can make it out of solid blocks, make it out of whatever you like for the bottom bit, but I like glass because you can see through it. So you need to build a wall all the way around, as I say, that's 3 blocks high. So then you've got something that looks like that. Now you're going to need to get up on top of here in order to feed these guys and turn it on and off. So you need to decide where you want to climb up the side of your breeder. So I'm going to choose the front. I'm going to choose this bit here. So you just need to put some ladders in here. So pop out those blocks, replace it with solid blocks, and then just stick your ladders on the front like that. You can't place ladders on glass, so you need to replace them with solid blocks. And that way you can easily climb up on top to feed them. So now you should have something like that. Okay, now we need to put the piston in the center for the switchable villager to stand on. So get yourself stood on top of the outside of the breeder, on top of this block. You want to look at one of those panes of glass there, and you want to put a temporary block in the middle, like that. And then on top of that, facing upwards, you need to put a sticky piston. You can then pop out that temporary block. Now, surrounding that sticky piston, you want to put solid blocks. So just run around the wall, putting yourself down some solid blocks. Now, on top of it, you need to put yourself down a solid block. Now, I'm going to use glowstone. You can use a sea lantern, but I think it's best to probably use a block that glows, because what you don't want is zombies spawning in there when you're in and around the area. So you certainly need the light level in here to be above 7. So it's best if you use a bit of glowstone or a sea lantern. And then around that, put another layer of solid blocks. So now you've got something that looks like that. Next, you want to grab yourself a lever, and you want to put a lever just there, so it's directly above your ladders. So when you climb up your ladders, it's the on-off switch is directly in front of you. And if you flick the switch, you'll notice that the sticky piston activates and the glowstone goes up and down. Now you want to grab yourself a solid block and put it above there, above your lever, so you can still see your lever. And then you want to stick yourself a ladder on there. And that's going to allow you to get up to the top to feed them. So down here to turn it on and off, up here to feed them. Now you need to put some more glass blocks in the build. You need to cover these panes with solid glass blocks. So get yourself up onto the top, onto here, and put a solid block directly above the panes. And you need to run this all the way around the outside. Okay, and then you want to do exactly the same on top of it. Okay, so that's what you've got now, and that's where your villagers are going to go. So that's going to be the next job, is to get your breeding pairs inside your breeder. Now, there are several ways to do this. You can use water elevators, you can use rails, you can use steps to push them in. So there are loads of ways to do it. I'm not going to show you how to do that here, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure that bit out. But I'm going to use a spawn egg because I can. So get yourself a villager on top and just gently coerce him into the hole. So he pops down there. And don't do that. And grab yourself another one. And push him in. Now, these don't have to be farmers like some of the old villager breeders, and you can use nitwits. So nitwits are fine too. So don't go throwing away any of your nitwits. Okay, so now you've got your 4 breeding pairs inside your breeder. Now what you need to do is cover them with glass, and this serves a couple of purposes. Firstly, it stops the babies from being fed. Now, if you want to put these babies into a trading hall, the last thing you want them to do is start breeding when they're stood next to each other. So this is a fantastic idea that stops the babies from being fed when they're born. So what you need to do is grab yourself a couple of temporary blocks and stick 3 blocks like that. And then you want to put a piston, normal piston facing down just there. You need to put a pane of glass on it. A block of glass on it. And then you need to force that block down. Okay. Then stick a normal block on there and force it down again. Okay. And then you want to stick another block on there and force it down once more. Then pop out those temporary blocks that you put in, and now the glass is completely surrounding those villagers. And as I say, it serves 2 purposes. 1, when they throw food about, it doesn't fall down and feed the babies. And 2, if you do accidentally fall in there, you're not going to fall all the way down the bottom. Okay? And you can pop those out. So again, three blocks, normal piston facing down, glass block, normal block, force it down, another normal block, force it down once more, get rid of all of those temporary blocks, and you're left with your glass block in the right place. Okay, 1, 2, 3 solid blocks, standard piston, glass block, solid block, force it down, another solid block, force it down once more, pop out the blocks that you don't need, and you'll, as I say, you're left with the glass block in the right place. We may as well do the last one while we're here. 1, 2, 3 solid blocks, piston facing down, glass block, solid block, force it down once, another solid block, force it down again, get rid of all of the temporary blocks, and now all of your villagers are encased in the glass. Now don't worry, it's not going to suffocate them, they'll be fine. But now you're left with that. Okay, so now it's time to get the villager in the centre. So you want to put a column of 3 blocks of solid glass all the way around the centre block. So you've got a gap down the middle, and you want to put your villager in the middle like that. Okay, and then you want to miss a block, so miss that block, and then put 2 glass blocks around it. This is encasing him in. Now, in the past, there has been a bit of a glitch on Minecraft where every so often, if you put an entity inside a column and surround him in, sometimes he glitches through the corners. Doesn't happen very often. But this just stops it. And also, zombies can get villagers through corners as well. So if you do happen to get a zombie up here, if you put blocks there, it's not going to be able to get down to those guys, and he's not going to be able to get the ones in the middle. So just surround him completely with glass like that. Okay? Now grab yourself 4 trapdoors, and you want to put the trapdoors just there. Now these are optional, but I have found that if you don't use them, when the villagers in the pods start throwing food about, every so often the food comes up and goes over the top and you lose it. By putting the trapdoors there, it stops the food from popping out. So now you should have something that looks like that. Okay, so the final part is to put the doors on the top. So you grab yourself some solid blocks. You need to get up on top of the breeder now. Put yourself down a solid block there, and then one directly over the center. And then you want to make a cross around the top. So you've got your center block, and then you want to come two out. So you've got a cross like that. And then directly in the center, you need to put yourself down a bit of glowstone or a sea lantern. Again, that's you don't need that. You don't need that to be a glowstone or a sea lantern. If you wanted to, you could have a solid block there with a torch on it. But you do need a bit of lighting up there, because if you don't have any lighting, you're going to get mob spawn up there, and you don't want that. Okay, so make sure that block is lit up somewhere, either a block with a torch on or an illuminated block like that. And then you want to put 8 doors around the side of it, on top of each one of these blocks here. So stand on the center block, and you just want to throw down 8 doors. Okay. Now, as soon as that villager moves up a block, puts him in the range of those doors, it becomes valid, and as soon as your villagers are fed, they'll get in the mood and start breeding. So now you should have something that looks like that. Okay, now the final thing we need to do before we turn this on, before we feed them and turn them on, is to put some water in the bottom. So just pop out those 2 blocks there. Come to the corner that is directly opposite your unloading station, which is over there. Put down a temporary block and put some water on top of it. You can then get rid of that temporary block. Get yourself back outside, replace the glass blocks. And now it's time to feed these guys. So grab yourself some carrots or potatoes or bread. Any's good. Each villager needs 12 carrots or potatoes or 9 pieces of bread in order to get in the mood. But if you only throw them 12 carrots, they won't be in the mood, because they won't give away all of their food. They still need some in their inventory before they start using the food. So really, you'll probably want to give them at least a stack of food each. I'm just going to throw loads in, but the more you can't give them too much food, basically what I'm saying. And also, only try and feed them the same food all the time. So if you start feeding them carrots, try to just continually feed them carrots. If you start feeding them bread, continually feed them with bread. It's just because of how they fill up their inventory slots. I just found that it's more beneficial if you keep to the same food group. So I'm going to jump up there, whip open the door, and throw them some carrots. So they've had 4 stacks of carrots in there, and I'll do the same all the way around. Okay, now they've all been fed, they're all happy, it's just time to turn the breeder on. So as you see, instantly, you flick the switch and the villager goes up. It instantly turns the villager breeder on. They are now in the mood. So now you've just got to sit back and wait for the little babies to spawn. Now this could take a couple of seconds, this could take a couple of minutes, but it won't be long before you start getting babies. And then you can just cart them off to wherever you need to cart them off to. Now there are a couple of prerequisites to this. Don't put the babies, look at that, don't put the babies above this level. Don't put never get the babies within 64 blocks above that level there. Because if you do, it's going to invalidate the village. Okay, so wherever you cart them off to, make sure it's either 64 blocks away or below this level. And also, don't put any solid blocks above this level here, within 10 blocks of these doors. Okay? Otherwise, it will invalidate the doors and it will invalidate the village. Okay, so for 10 blocks around these doors, do not put anything above them, any solid block above them or next to them within 10 blocks of these doors. Otherwise, it will invalidate the doors. And when you've got enough babies and you want to turn it off, just flick the switch and 60 seconds later, your breeder is going to be off. Now, one last point. These guys have to be continually fed. You can't just feed them a few stacks and expect them to breed indefinitely. It doesn't work like that. So you are going to have to get up there and feed them periodically. As I say, you can't overfeed them. If you throw them food and they stop picking it up, you know their inventory's full. But you will have to continually come back and feed them. So that's how you build the Quadpod Infinite Villager Breeder with an on-off switch. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, everybody. If you have, please don't forget to leave it a like. And if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future tutorials. This is Frilly off, and I'm out of here.